Welcome back to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm Brad Williams, and today I'm hanging with Billy Allen and Jay from The Pollies. This conversation is all about feel, the stuff you can't put on a grid. We talk about how Billy and Jay's musical connection started years before the band actually came together, and why the timing ended up being exactly right. We get into what Southern means to them musically, less about flashy and more about storytelling and soul. Plus we dig into track sequencing, how songs evolve on the road, and the pressure, real or imagined, of making the next record. Here's my conversation with Billy Allen and Jay from The Pollies.
Selfishness is way ahead, always seen the lane. Yeah, let the ground cover me. I don't want your sympathy. You never cared for me when I gave you all of me. Oh, let the ground cover me. I don't want your sympathy. You never cared for me when I gave you all of me. When I gave you all of me.
Billy and Jay, it's a pleasure to welcome you guys to the podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
As we're recording this, I saw on your calendar that you guys are playing at Smith's Old Bar tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm originally from outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and played many times at Smith's Old Bar. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you played there before?
It's my first time.
Okay. Jay,
you've been there, right?
Yeah, I've played there a lot over the years.
Yeah.
I know that staircase real well.
That was my next statement was get ready for that load in.
Right.
Yeah. I saw a band play there one time. We did a show with the band and watched them carry a B3 and a Leslie up those stairs one
Jesus.
day.
Whoa.
I was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's nuts. So I am a new fan of your band, new fan of your music. I just love it. It just checks a lot of boxes for me. Just love.
Thank you.
Yeah, really nice. And just love the being from Georgia, being from the South. It just has a wonderful Southern nod to it that I really enjoy. So thank you for that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So for my listeners and who are getting to know you, I'd love to just kind of hear how all of this happened. I know you guys met and then kind of orbited in similar universes, but then finally came together. How did all of that happen?
The Pollies have been a band, I guess, now for, I don't know, a long time, 10 years or so. And we were backing several different artists, but the main one we were backing was a guy named Dylan LeBlanc. And we were off the road, we were hanging out, or I was hanging out with some friends in this bar. There's like a cover band downstairs, and we were tabbing out, getting ready to leave. And I heard like it seemed like it was like from memory that it was like some note that someone was singing, and I was like, at first kind of thought that might be on the radio, and it was just some song I hadn't heard. And then I realized it was somebody that had joined the band downstairs. So I walked around the balcony and saw this person, and my friend walked up behind me and was like, "Who is that?" I have no clue, but I'm about to go find out. And so I tapped the drummer, which I feel bad about doing, on the back while he's playing. And it's like, "Who's that singing?" And he's like, "Billy Allen." I was like, "Awesome." And then probably about 6 years later, in 2019, I guess, I went to some friends were playing at another bar, and I went and sat in with them. And on my way out leaving, ran into a friend that I knew had been working with Billy a little bit, and was just kind of like, "What's he doing?" And like 3 months later, I think we ended up in Fame Studio B recording a couple of covers just to see if it was going to work out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting that all that time passed,
Yeah.
between you guys, you hearing him the first time, and then when you finally started working together. Are you glad that time passed? Do you think it kind of musically got you all in a place that you needed to be, and the times linked up the way they should have?
I like to
Maybe.
think
I mean,
it
like,
did.
yeah, I mean, like I would think, who knows? We could have done
Yeah.
it then, and by now, like not be traveling in a Toyota RAV4. But like I think so. I mean, like I don't
Well,
think at that time that we were ready to stop taking on all these gigs with all these other artists and backing them up, and I don't know if we would have been able to like put as much energy as we can now into it back 6 years, 7 years ago.
yeah, I like to say that time was good because it gave me time to mature musically. Because I was really young when they did discover me, and I hadn't done this, and before I met them, I hadn't been on a tour and this many places outside of Alabama. So it gave me time to mature musically, and I like to say the pandemic slowed them down a little bit so they could work with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say you guys finally start playing together in 2019, and then like the world slammed on its brakes in 2020, and then all that happened.
Yeah.
Man, that was wild. It was like you get all excited about this new project, and then it was like, oh, you can't talk to each other. You can't like get in the room with one another and kind of hash out musical ideas and such. But it also gave us for the Pollies, and I think for Billy too, it gave us enough downtime. So like the schedule was open, and then when everybody kind of felt comfortable to get around each other, the schedule was still open, as we all know. I mean, for about a year and a half or so, there's nothing going on. And so I think that was, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I would like to go through another COVID again or anything, but I do think it was a necessity or a necessity for us to have that downtime to be able to understand what we have here, and maybe we should pursue it, instead of kind of keeping it on the back burner.
Yeah, I've talked with so many musicians on here that while it was hard to not make a living, not have regular income coming in, now that we're on the other side of it, a lot of them have said that it was a really good period to just kind of slow down a little bit, catch their breath, that maybe it's the first time in their whole career that they had not been going nonstop. But I also think that, like, for you guys, it was such a creative period, such a fertile period to actually have some time to not just be on the go so much, that you could actually write, collaborate, and all this stuff that's come out as a result of it,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was pretty, looking back on it, I didn't think I realized it at the time, and Billy might feel different, but like, I think if I would have been working and then also trying to work with Billy to co-write a lot of this stuff, and I think there would have been some days where we walked into that writer room where I was probably like, man, I really wish I could sit on the couch. But instead, because of the downtime, I look forward to every Tuesday night, getting in that past garage and seeing if we can't come up with something.
Yeah. Do you think the isolation made you guys write more honestly, or do you think it allowed you to be more experimental and kind of go for some things that you might not have done before?
Billy?
Well, all of this is something that I've never done before. When I started with music, it was covers. But when they met me, I was in a bunch of cover bands. So I never had the thought of writing my own music and singing it. I've always wrote like poetry, in the back, just to have for myself or to release some thoughts, from childhood trauma or whatever. But I never thought to say, okay, I can write my own music and sing in it. So I met these guys, Pollies, and got with Jay in the garage. And he was like, yeah, no covers. You gotta write. You gotta express yourself. And he slowly started to teach me, and I start bringing songs to him. He's like, all right, this is cool. How about this? Try this. So he really kind of coached me with writing. And so all of this is very new to me. So yeah.
That's great. Did you guys come from very similar influence backgrounds, what you were listening to, developing as musicians, or was it very different kind of territories and kind of found this middle ground that you've merged into? I'll start with you, Jay. Do you guys, were you listening to the same kind of stuff growing up?
I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if me and Billy's ever really talked about what we listened to when we were younger. I know that there's a lot of similarities in musical taste, but there's also, I think that's what makes it kind of interesting, is like there's also, a lot, good amount of stuff that he shows me, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but like I don't ever go listen to it or anything. It's just not my thing to really dig into. And I'm sure there's a lot when I bring it to him too. But I feel like that's what makes it interesting, because like, you're drawing influences from all kinds of different spots, and to bring some of these influences that maybe I don't have that he does, and you meld them together, it kind of creates something to me that's pretty interesting. And, but yeah, I don't think we've ever really, I know we've discussed music in general, but I don't know if we ever talked about childhood music. I was like one of those kids that like was into anything from Garth Brooks, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, all the way to like Cisco and Drew Hill and Keith Sweat and Tupac and Biggie and Wu-Tang Clan. So it was kind of like all over the map for me. I just liked what I liked, like there was no rules to it to me.
I love that. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, there's some similarities there, and then like you said, there's some differences. Like we had some situation growing up that we had that was alike, so we kind of had some of the same experiences that kind of brought the writing process together. Like that song "I Need to Know," like we both wrote that from almost a similar experience. So things like that, and like we was well cultured in music, and so was I. I enjoyed the rock and roll, like the Stones, Mick Jagger, Tina Turner, Rod Stewart, stuff like that. But my mother sung opera and gospel, so that music was around the house all the time. So I didn't discover R&B. Well, I knew R&B, but I didn't really get into it until I was like 16, when I started singing in my first club band, and I had to learn Luther Vandross and Maxwell and all that stuff, So yeah.
I love that there's, and I can hear it listening to you guys. I can tell that there's, you're drawing from a very deep well of influences, but also not really concerned with the labels and the genres. I think genres are more limiting than they are freeing. And I think I love that you guys just kind of push the boundaries of what a band can do and I can really hear all those different styles that you both referred to.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. As I was saying, I'm from outside of Atlanta. Are you guys, is the whole band from Alabama? Are you guys all from that area?
They're all living there now.
Yeah.
One of our keyboard players is originally from Louisiana. Our bass player is from actually born and raised Nashville, Tennessee. He's a rare bird these days.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us are all from parts of Alabama.
What does Southern mean to you musically? Is it geography? Is it groove? Is it storytelling? What do you think about when you think of Southern in terms of music?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind to me is that it's not, as far as music goes, it's never really technical. It's just kind of more of a feeling thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever really think about the technical side of music. It's just, as long as it makes them feel a way that they need to feel, that's Southern.
Yeah.
To me. What about you, Billy? I'm interested in your answer.
It's quite similar, actually. Southern, like you said, it's storytelling, but it's the soul of storytelling. That's how I like to describe Southern to me. The soul of storytelling. Yeah, not just telling a story, but that thing, like you just said, the thing you feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about when you guys recorded, done mostly live, right? Without a click, which just makes me so happy to hear that. And not a lot of takes. I'd love to hear the approach behind all of that and what some of those decisions that you guys made. Was that an intentional thing that, hey, let's not do it with a click, or how did all that come to be?
Billy, you want to?
That's definitely your question.
A lot of bumping heads. That's how that.
No.
Especially at that point in time, I still am. Nowadays, I guess like I lean more towards like what is the right approach instead of being really hard-headed about doing it a certain way. But back then was towards the end of my very hard-headedness about we don't need a click, it needs to feel natural. If it wasn't for Ben Tanner co-producing this record, I would have had Billy in the room with us, and he would have had to keep all his lead vocals, and basically the band would play to the vocal, which is how like a lot of the demos were done prior, which there isn't many of them. I think there's like 4 or something. But he was in the room with it, all cut in the same room, and whatever his lead vocal was is what that's what we recorded all together. And there was something interesting to me about it, like just the way that each individual in the band interacts with each other, and the way that if Billy sang something that made us do something a little different on this take, or whatever the case may be, it was all I like to tell people I'm a perfectionist at imperfection. I think that's the way I like to describe myself.
I like that.
I think there is a beauty in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes a lot of those older records why we still go back to them. I think it's because of the natural chaos that was happening musically between all these people being in the same room playing together at the same time. And there wasn't many. I think that at max there might have been 7 takes of one of the songs And you could probably go back to take one and it's probably solid. It was just probably us being picky. And to be honest, a lot of those vocals, we ended up, when we went into comp vocals, a lot of Billy's vocals ended up being the original take. We went down. I was actually shocked. I told Billy later that was his original vocal, and it wasn't his overdubbed vocal that he worked so hard to get. But yeah, there was just something special about it, and I think there still is. I think it's just, it's never called music, but for the thing that we were doing on that record, I definitely think it was, to me, it needed to be done that way.
Yeah.
It was just more interesting. It makes it not stale.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about, we're talking about, these old records that we still go back and listen to. I mean, I love how those tunes, how those recordings, how they speed up in the chorus and maybe slow down a little bit in the verse, and things sit on the front of the beat. And I think there's so much beauty in that. Things can get so sterile when it's all lined up to the grid so perfectly. It's like, no, let the music breathe.
And it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny, like you talk about, even like on the hip hop side of things, like nowadays, Dilla is like this big talked about person, producer, whatever you want to label him as. But the reason why his stuff was so different was because he wasn't quantitizing anything.
Yeah.
And he was just taking samples that he liked and figuring it out, and then he would play it on his pads.
Yeah.
But it was him. It was his rhythm that was playing these samples, just like it's our rhythm when we play certain instruments. And that's what made it interesting to so many people, was because it wasn't perfect.
Yeah. No,
it was funny. I watched it. Sorry, I'm going long-winded on this, but I think it's a good point. I was watching a documentary on D'Angelo not too long ago, and in it had Quest talking about D'Angelo wanting him to play more drunk, and it became kind of like this whole thing behind the sound of D'Angelo in general was this kind of loose feel of like, and it was just this push-pull tension thing happening the whole song. But what was funny is they cut all that stuff to a click. But I found it funny that they worked so hard to mess it up.
Yeah.
From the click. It was almost like, what would it sound like if they didn't even have a click? They just played it.
I agree.
Would it be, you know what I mean? Like, would it have been the same thing without them having to think that hard and work that hard to achieve that, just to know that you're somewhere in the ballpark of the BPM you want to be at?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It was just an interesting thought, because I love all his records. Voodoo to me is like a jam. But just to hear him talk, like, I always thought it was never with a click, and that's the reason why it felt the way it did. But it was, and they just worked hard to, fuck it up.
Yeah, I just listened to, there's a good interview that Questlove on his podcast did with Pino Palladino, who played bass on that album, and they talk a lot about that whole rhythm section tracking for that album, and it's just unbelievable the way that D'Angelo kind of stretched them in ways that they had never both been asked to by an artist before. It's unbelievable.
It's also awesome to hear them talk about it and not talk about, like, it was almost like they were excited to do that. Where, like, a lot of musicians, I mean, if they're being honest, if you were to push them to do that type of stuff, they would get pretty aggravated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just I don't know what you're wanting me to do. You're wanting me to not play this right. Is that what you're wanting me to do?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to hear, these great musicians being like, no, that was awesome. Like, it was just crazy. I never thought about it that way before.
Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes musicians don't like to be asked to try new things. They don't like it.
No,
it's nice to hear them stretch out and do stuff.
Sometimes I don't either. I don't blame them, but at the same time.
I'm with you. You talked about Ben Tanner earlier. I'd love to hear how that professional relationship happened and what you found so crucial working with him, and what maybe he brought to the group that you guys may not have been able to achieve on your own. I'll ask you, Billy, how much about working with Ben?
Working with Ben is pretty cool. He's quiet, but when he gets an idea, he runs with it and he executes it very well. So you have his expertise in piano and producing when he comes up with an idea on maybe mixing a vocal or an effect or running something through an amp or something. It's so unique and it's something that you don't think about, but he's constantly going there in his head, and it's he pulls out certain things out of you, and it's really cool to watch him work. I just sit back and just watch him, and he just when he's done, it's like, wow, what? Yeah, so it's really cool working with Ben.
Yeah. Do you think you guys are a better band now, having worked with him? Do you think he molded you guys or found some things within the band that maybe you wouldn't have found on your own?
Yeah. He's taught us a lot. He went on the road with us for a little bit as well, doing like the first stages of the record, you know. So we had him not only in the studio but on the road to kind of give us that glue between me as a solo artist and the guys as a band, you know. So it really helped. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed that I seem to take note of is that I really enjoyed the track order of the album. It just seems to be there's a good arc to it. Was there a lot of conversation about the order of which you guys put those tracks together for the album?
It was. Jay, you take this one. Yeah. It was a process.
I mean, it always, if it's not a process, well, I will take that back. Sometimes you just kind of know, you know, like, for instance, on this record, I think we all knew that All of Me would start it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of like the feel of that song. It just kind of gave you what to expect after, you know. After All of Me, I'd kind of always had in my head that either Need to Know or Go On Without Them would end the record, and leaned more towards Go On Without Them in my head. Everything in the middle, though, I mean, it took a while. There was a lot of, you know, taking the mixes, and outside of All of Me and Go On Without Them, you know, so you had, on this record, you kind of had the bookends, but like, it's always been kind of a process where I pull it up in Pro Tools, the like 2 tracks of the mixes, and you just start like a puzzle, you know, pulling them in and rearranging them until, you know, whatever, it starts to feel good. And I think at the end of the day, the hardest part was like really just picking, you know, we had to leave off the song Riding With You, which I thought all of us were like, there's no way it can't be on the record. But there was no place that it felt good on the record. And so it was like, you know, at the end of the day, when we all went back and listened to the record as a whole, and then we listened to the record as a whole with it in random spots, you know, we all agreed that, like, yeah, the record feels better without it, even though we thought it was a great song. So, like, to me, track listening, especially for an entire record, is very important, and it takes some time, you know, to get it right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I just
goes back to the Southern. It's all about feeling.
Yeah, it's all about feel. Well, and you know, we live in such a world now where I don't feel like as many, and maybe albums are still getting released, but it just feels like everything is like everybody's releasing singles now or EPs, and it's so nice to listen to an album from front to back and the story that each song tells, but then the story that the entire album tells. It's just I just love to hear a record from front to back, like one that you guys did, you know?
Thank you. That's my favorite way to discover music as well.
have the arrangements of the songs evolved since the recording when you guys play live? Are you a much different band live than you are in the studio, or is it do you try to capture that live energy in the studio?
I think they've definitely evolved a little bit. I mean, you're going to exaggerate things here and there and in a live performance than more so than you would recording something. Outside of that, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I guess it's going to go back to the feeling thing. It's just what feels good while we're playing it in front of people.
Mhm.
And if you start to get that interaction from the crowd, then you know, like, all right, we're on to something. Maybe we should extend this part, or maybe, you know, we should go back to it, or whatever the case may be. And then you also got certain things like, you know, for this record, as minimalistic as it is, you know, we have string parts that really add something to those songs. So it's like, well, how are we going to cover this? We don't have a quartet, you know. So should we worry about really trying to pull off these certain melodic things that the strings are doing here and there? Or, you know, like, there's all these things. You try to find that happy medium that will also translate while we're playing live. But yeah, I mean, I think it's evolved in certain areas for sure. What do you think, Billy?
I agree. I agree with everything you said. I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Do you have
how,
anything to take away from it, though?
No, nothing to take away from it.
I've played in bands over the years, though, that you'll record a bunch of tracks and then go out and play them live, and then go back a year later and listen to the album and think, wow, I forgot we did it that way. It's like it's slowly like morphed into this new thing over
Right.
time. Yeah, it's
Right.
really interesting how, yeah, just that interaction and just the energy from either on the band with the band or energy from the audience can completely change how you approach
Mhm.
playing a song.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. And it's all like, I think for us, the big conversation between record and live that I feel like happens is the tempos. It's a constant conversation that pretty much exists between me, Billy, and our drummer John. It's just like a constant, like, speed up, slow down, speed up, speed up, speed up, slow down. You know, like it's, or, you know, maybe we should do this here where we're changing something or whatever. But it's all revolved around tempo. And, you know, once again, the feeling. And once you get in the room full of people, your energy gets pumping.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
always going to get a little quicker.
Yeah. And I can say from, you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too, but Billy, as a person who do a lot of singing, you know, it's tempo really matters if you're wanting to, as a singer.
King.
It's king,
It's
right?
king. Mhm.
And making sure that it's not too fast or not too slow, you know, so you can really convey what the lyric and the story is saying. It's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've as you were telling that, Jay, I'm just sitting here thinking about 20 bands that I've played with over the years. That whole that routine of the band leader and the drummer and then the singer, and, you know, trying to figure out the best way to find out who's going to be in control of the tempo of this tune, you know?
Well, and that's the
Man.
thing, you know, like, I think for instance, for like me and John, we played with one artist in the past that they just constantly wanted to speed up. Like, it was never fast enough. And I remember going back and watching some videos, like we did this long tour, and I think I was like, we took a break and I was hanging out by myself, like, oh, you know, like some video popped up and I watched it, and then I went down a rabbit hole watching videos from this tour that we just got through doing. And by the end of that tour, I just remember we were in Europe and we started getting these, this was like a folk singer, right? And we started getting these reviews while we were in Europe that we kind of reminded them of Bob Dylan with Metallica.
Wow.
And I was like, and I remember reading them at the time being like, maybe it's just Google Translate just doesn't know how to like translate what they're trying to say. And then I went back and watched those videos, and I totally understood why they were saying it, because like we were going so fast. It was just like incredibly fast. But in the moment, it was like, yeah, this feels all right. Yeah. That's when I think I became a bit more self-conscious about too fast, too slow, too fast, too slow, trying to find this happy medium, which to me doesn't exist. You know, or definitely doesn't exist every day. But yeah, I think it's a constant tug and pull between the three of us.
To me, it comes down to what do you want to do? What is your goal for this performance? You know, and mine is all about energy. It's about making the people move, because that's the world I come from. You know, it's like like bars and event people would tell us, hey, get them up, get them drinking, get them moving, get the girls on the dance floor, you know, so that's the world I come to. So me, I want it faster, you know, even if it's a little bit faster than the record. The old rock and roll trick was play the fast songs faster and play the slow songs slower, you know?
Yeah.
So me, it's about the energy and just getting the people up so they can have a good time. And then you have other musicians that want to play the song. You know, they just want to relate the song, the message, and that's it. You know, so it's all, to me, I think it's all about what you want to get out of this performance and what do you want to relate to the audience, you know? So that's what it all boils down to, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you guys are touring, like right now, doing this leg of the tour, how long is your set? Are you doing like 90 minutes, 120 minutes? How long is the set?
They're
Roughly
usually sorry, go for it, Billy.
I think about 90 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Every now and then we'll go over a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, and you know, as you're talking about playing fast and slow songs, yeah, just getting that whole thing to gel and to agree on tempos, and yeah,
Yeah.
the struggle is real with all that, fellas.
Oh,
That's for sure.
it is. It is.
Yeah. So are you guys collaborating on a new batch of tunes? Kind of what's the next phase for you guys? What are you working on? Jay,
Me?
I'll ask you, Jay.
Okay.
We'll start with Jay.
I don't think me and Billy ever really. Well, we definitely paused to finish that first record, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think the day after me and Ben finished mixing it, we were back in that garage writing again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's ever really stopped. The problem now for me, and I think maybe for Billy too, we'll see in a minute, but like, is that now we have this. I mean, on the first record we had a lot of songs, but for whatever reason, I think it was a little bit easier to like figure out which ones we should do, or should try. On this one, you know, coming in and get back in the studio, it's been a bit harder for me to really figure out like which ones are the ones that. So yeah, there's a massive amount of new songs. We're working on it. You know, we're back in the studio. We'll be in the studio all year and hopefully have something for next year, but no pressure.
Yeah.
All right, Simon.
No, I'm saying that to make myself laugh because we are pressured to have another one by next year, and you know, I guess the people think it's just so fucking easy, and it's not.
It's not, and I think every, you know, I personally think it gets a little bit more difficult because, you know, you've had so much time to write maybe the first or second album, but it feels like the time gets a little shorter from then on, and you're still there's also expectation that goes along with it too, that you know, that you feel like you know, and I'm curious of that too, that part of it is like, do you feel external pressure as a songwriter or as an artist, or do you just kind of leave that stuff at the door and say, we're going to do our thing and we're not going to bend on who we are for anybody that's telling us what we should be doing?
Yeah, I don't I don't go by that. You know, I don't want that pressure. I think about it. I'm like, okay, how do we top this? How do we go from this? But I think that's when you start like, I don't know how to say it. That's when it overtakes you and it becomes too much. You know, like Michael Jackson spent every day pretty much after Thriller trying to beat Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of boxed him in. I think that kind of took away music that we could have heard from him that he just let go and was like, hey, this doesn't beat Thriller, so I'm not going to even worry about it. I just think you just get in there and just do it. And the magic, like it that could happen before, the magic will happen. Where you're supposed to go, the direction you're supposed to go in, it will happen. You'll start hearing it. The songs will start coming together. Oh, this sounds just like this. Oh, this goes with this. And then before you know it, you've got a whole body of work. And I've been telling the guys with this new record, let's go in just to record. Let's not worry about what songs is better, what songs is not good. Because last record, we had songs that certain people didn't like and some that people did like that the ones they did like did make it on the record. Some that they didn't like did make it on the record, and they began liking it. Like Lady Luck, I did not like that song at first, you know, but now I love it. I'm like, I didn't get it. I didn't get why Jay wanted me to do that song, but
He hated me that day.
after hearing it, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, how did you hear this? Like, it's incredible. I love it now. But let's just go and just do it. Just release yourself. To me, music is about the release, you know? So if we just go in there and release ourselves, everything will come out. Everything will happen the way it's supposed to happen. And you don't have to pressure yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. No, I totally agree. And it is, there's something to be said about having a bandmate that will be honest with you and say, and with a perspective different than your own and say, trust me, this is what you need to do. And, you know, just as you're saying, look what happened, you know? Yeah, I think that's great. Well, fellas, I've had a good time hanging out with you, and
Likewise.
I just wish you all the best.
Thank you, Brad.
Same to you, brother.
Yeah,
And
wish
you,
all
man.
the best, and you know, wish you all the best with your load in this afternoon. You know,
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. You're not going to have to worry about tempos being too fast tonight because you guys are going to be exhausted from carrying all your gear up those steps.
You know any hiding spots, Brad?
No, Billy. No.
Yeah.
Those clothes ain't going in until them fucking instruments are.
Oh, you know my trick now.
Yeah, I do.
That's it. Well, best of luck.
Thank you, Brad.
And hopefully
man.
I'll see you guys in person soon. And
Absolutely.
we'll just thanks for the music, guys, and just best of luck to you.
Thank you, Brad. Really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow or subscribe to the Bandwich Tapes wherever you listen, and consider leaving a rating or review. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.